What's up everyone? My name is Morcie, and if you're new to this channel, I encourage others to experience the joy of just being. And today, I want to give you all 3 reasons to find joy in being wrong. Yes, the joy of being wrong. And I know you probably clicked on this thinking, how exactly can I find joy in not being right? How exactly is there an ounce of joy in being wrong? I can tell you, being okay with being wrong and understanding the opportunity you get from that is far greater than the need to be right. So, number 1, the first reason of how you can find joy in being wrong is that you learn more. You're able to get more perspective. You see, I created a video about rethinking what you believe, rethinking your beliefs. You know, many times we've grown up with these beliefs, these ideas of what life should be, who we should be. And many of those beliefs are what are stopping us from finding a bigger truth, understanding and recognizing a bigger truth. All it does is reinforce our narrow-minded way of thinking. It takes a certain level of self-awareness to even acknowledge that, to acknowledge, you know what? I do have a more narrow-minded way of thinking, way of perceiving, and saying, you know what, I'm willing to open myself up to being wrong in this case. When I journal every day, I tell myself, you've got to find one thing to prove yourself wrong with in this journal entry. And every time I do, I close my journal feeling lightweight, feeling lifted, feeling like my awareness has been expanded, because I opened up space for bigger truths, bigger understandings, and bigger ideas to come to me, just there with a pen and a paper. I didn't need anyone else to talk to me. I didn't have to go anywhere else for other resources. That simple intention to say, hey, you know what, I'm wrong about something, and I'm gonna make sure I find it. I'm gonna make sure I'm open to finding it. When you allow yourself to let go of who you're supposed to be right, I'm supposed to do this right? You set in this feeling, it's this state of being where you understand that you have nothing to prove to anyone. There's no image you need to protect. It's down, it's gone, and guess what? You're present. It leads to presence. Who knew that the joy of being wrong can lead you to be more present, open, awake, experiencing the joy of just being? Number 2, the second reason to find joy in being wrong is you end up observing more than reacting. You see, more than likely, if you're watching this video, that's one of your intentions. You want to be in a state of inner peace. You want to be chill. You don't want to be reactive to things, constantly reacting to this and that. Recognize that reaction is not the true you. It is the false you. It is what you can call, hey, the ego conscious, the consciousness, the part of our mind that thinks we are separate, right? We are in here and everything is out there. And one of the major parts of awakening is realizing and expanding your sense of self, realizing that you're not just in here, but you're also out there. And this is a experience you know, it's very personal to each and every one of us. And so the more you sit back in a state of observation, right, within yourself, what you are gonna feel is this reaction arise within you. You might hear someone say something and you might feel this resentment. You might feel anger. Hey, it's okay. Listen, allow those emotions to come through. It's gonna happen. But what's that is gonna show you is what exactly it is you need to bring your awareness to. Now you can say, whoa, I didn't realize that I was so attached to this idea. I didn't know I found my identity so much in this belief. Maybe I should sit back and think about how I can let this go. Give myself reasons to let this idea go, to let this belief go. Because it's only reinforcing that narrow-minded perception where we want to expand our awareness, right? If you feel you're finding value in this video, be sure to like down below, subscribe to this channel for more about experiencing the joy of being. The joy of being wrong. To sit back and really feel as though you are no thing. Not nothing, but you're no thing. You're no one. When you can sit back and be more accountable, when you can sit back and be more accountable for your reactions and instead of blaming yourself, that's definitely is another level of self-awareness. It's another level of conscious, a shift in consciousness when you choose to say, hey, you know what? This is what happened, but here's how I'm gonna learn from this. Instead of blaming yourself, you do find yourself more in a state of observation, more accepting of what is happening so that you can experience the isness of what's happening. There's no judgment, there's no story, you don't personalize what's happening, but you're fully there in the moment, experiencing the moment, the sensations, whatever it might be. You allow the present moment to be your guide. Number 3, the last reason to experience the joy of being wrong is that it humbles you. It gives you this more balanced state of being. You're not lacking self-awareness and incredibly overconfident. And at the same time, you don't have this inferiority complex, right? You're not undervaluing yourself. You're not undervaluing your awareness. Because I know I've experienced inferiority complex, and sometimes I have to sit back and be like, oh, there it goes again, arising. It's coming up within me. I could feel it. I can feel those thoughts telling me what I can and can't do. I can feel those insecurities arising. It's an amazing step when you finally become aware, right? Awareness is everything. Just a simple step of saying, whoa, there it is, right? You sit back and truly you're humbled, and also you're not afraid. There's less fear within you. When you think about the ego consciousness, the ego's need to be right, it's doing that to create an identity for itself. It's doing that so it could feel that sense of superiority. And you know, when we sit back and think, you know, relatively speaking, we are all individuals. So of course we're going to have different identities, even though when we think on the bigger scale, we're all one. Yeah, I get that. It's more about finding that sense of balance, that sense of awareness within you when the ego is taking over the mind, when it's not staying in its own position, it's not staying in its place. And so when you sit back and you allow yourself to say, hey, you know what? Whoa, I was wrong. Yes, now I can learn something I never knew before. Now I'm observing and I'm not reacting, and that feels so good. Not to be moved by anything outside of me, not to be moved by the thoughts that are flowing through my mental field, but I'm here. And I don't feel fear because I'm open, I'm free. I have nothing to prove. There's not an identity to protect. And you're humbled. I say too, perspective is humbling. The more you hear what people have to say outside of your way of thinking, you sit back and you're like, wow, why did I go so hard for this? My perspective is only one perspective out of the many that exist. And now I'm learning more. Now I'm seeing the bigger picture. Now I am awakening. One thing I like to remind myself is of this quote. When the ego weeps for what it has lost, the spirit rejoices for what it has found. That pain that you feel when you're wrong, or when someone attempts to be like, you're wrong, and attempts to make you feel bad for being wrong, that pain, it's not the true you. It's the false self. It hurts, but the spirit rejoices. There's an opening. There's an opening for truth. Yes, I am not what I thought I am. I am more, and I'm not affected by this needing to prove, needing to be, needing to follow these expectations. Next, I'd like to get to questions. So if ever you have questions about anything that I share here, write it down in the comment section, and I will choose one question and answer it in my next video. This question is from my most recent video, which I encourage you to check out. I'll put that link right here. This question is from Louis Luft. By the way, Louis, I chose this question because I had an idea for this video that I just did, and your question was a confirmation for it. So thank you. So Louis says, I have a question that's not so much about observing thought, as I feel I've kind of become familiar with that type of process. The one I do struggle with is the process of unconsciously reacting to situations, which can bring out my ego, the need for wanting to be right. And I usually come back to being conscious of this situation too late, before I can change my reaction to the situation, then leaving me feeling a little agitated towards myself for not being conscious of what to do. Definitely, I understand that feeling of saying like, oh, here I go, I reacted again and I didn't want to do that, right? That's, like I said before, that's one of our biggest goals, is to say, oh, I don't want to be reactive towards things that happen to me, not allowing yourself to go through the motions. I want to remind you, Louis, that one, you can use the process of observing thought within this. It's not separate. Everything I share on this channel is really the process of observing thought. Watching thoughts fade away can be implemented into everything. So, it doesn't have to be separate. It isn't separate. The ego, you mentioned the ego, right? The need to be right. The ego you can also define as the unobserved mind. That's when we react unconsciously. We're not even aware that we're reacting. When we behave unconsciously, not fully aware of what we're doing. But when you do observe thought, you're aware of it. You know that pattern. And whatever thoughts that are going through your mind that are really influencing the reactivity within you, influencing that anger and things like that, you can watch it fade away, and at the same time watch those feelings fade away, so that you can then bring yourself back to this state of just being, this state of presence, and not being so immersed in what's happening within your mind. But remember, each time we find this sense of frustration in our reactions, all we're doing is accumulating more ego. And then we're putting ourselves in this constant loop, this constantly being frustrated, just perpetual frustration again and again and again. That's the same thing as like when you are observing thought and then you're upset at yourself for observing, for being attached to thought. Instead, change the metric system for which you measure your success. Instead, say, you know what? I'm happy I even recognize the fact that I reacted, and I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna let that guilt go and say, I'm grateful that I realize what it is that has influenced me to react. Because through our reactions, that brings about what we need to bring our awareness to, where we need to work on. Sometimes we don't even know. It's our reactions that tell us exactly what it is we need to work on. So it's not really a matter of trying to stop yourself from reacting. It's more of a matter of being present where you are, as present as you can be, feeling it, accepting when it does happen, because the more you accept that it does happen, and you're able to take accountability and bring awareness, the less you're going to do it naturally. The more you're just going to be more aware. The more you're going to speak to yourself with respect rather than condemning yourself and punishing yourself for not living up to your expectations. So in those moments when you do react, it happened. It is what it is. Come back to the present moment. If you feel that the present moment has led you to apologize, to do whatever it is, follow that. Don't be afraid of being wrong. Don't be afraid of making a mistake. Do it. Because from that is when you grow. That is when you learn. That is when you naturally, without trying, effortlessly, you begin to embody that state of just being, state of presence. My name is Morcie. If you enjoyed this video, do check out these two right here. And as always, live in a state of gratitude. Peace.